We are hereby back in session. Technical issues solved. Thank you, Jenny. So we have a little procedural issue. We have to go back to the representative to the county school
County committee.
committee. Thank you, because we didn't nominate an alternate. So would you be willing to be the alternate? I move that Jeannie be the alternate to the county committee. Would anyone like to second that? All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Okay, good. So that business. Please. Okay, we are at student reports and we're all looking at Alina.
Hello, everybody. Okay, it's finals week, so students have been preparing for that since the last report. I haven't been here in a while. Hi, everybody. I missed you all. It's nice to be back. We had the Winter Club Day, and that was a lot of fun. We had it in the main building because it was raining outside, and it was just a lot of chaos and it was hectic, but it was a lot of clubs that were like happy to be there and selling their baked goods and food and information. Anyway, that was lovely. And then auditions for the school musical. That was pretty fun. That happened. And now it's finals week. And we're studying for that. And yeah, that's all. Ooh.
Yes, I got one of the leads, which is pretty fun. Yeah.
Thank you, Alina. Okay, association reports. Julie, is that you? Come report to us.
I'm Julie McClelland. I would like to introduce myself as the new CSEA president. I was elected last week, so very cool. So we had elections. I was voted president. Sarah Foster will continue as vice president. Paula Dillon will be our secretary. Paul Poposa will switch to be our treasurer. And we're going to try out a public relations position, and Stacy Fortin is going to do that. So we're looking forward to sort of getting more training and just doing things that we need to do with people in different positions. So I'm excited about it. We're also looking forward to starting negotiations in January. So let's do that. Sounds great. Have a good holiday.
Thank you, Julie. Lily.
Welcome to the fold, Julie. It's a fun job. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Lily Smedshammer, president of the West Sonoma County Teachers Association. And on behalf of our membership, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to our new trustees, Rio Katera and Linda Helton. Rio, we're excited to get to know you better and hear your perspectives as you step into this important role. Linda, as a retired teacher and a former association president, your experience and insights are invaluable. And we look forward to continuing the positive progress we've seen in recent years between the staff and the board. We'd like also to invite both of you to visit Annalee and Laguna during lunch sometime. It's a great opportunity to meet and connect with the incredible teachers who are working every day to support our students. There is an important agenda item on tonight's agenda, the approval of a new non-comprehensive high school. While the teachers do not object to a small non-comprehensive, we do have questions and some concerns about the process. Specifically, we feel there was a lack of communication and involvement with staff on this matter. There have been 2 community meetings about this potential program in Forestville, but the presentation was shared with the community and not with the teachers. Appendix D of the WSCTA contract highlights the importance of site-based decision-making, stating the need for clear communication mechanisms between the site committees and stakeholders, an internal decision-making process, and a structured approach for implementing changes that could impact the contract or board policy. Yet here we are about to approve a new school without sufficient staff involvement in the planning process. Our opportunity to engage came late, Monday of this week, just 2 days before you would be voting on this issue, and during our chaotic final exams week. This timing made it challenging for us to provide meaningful input. We believe this process could have benefited greatly from earlier collaboration, leveraging the expertise of our teachers to help shape the vision for this new school. We're asking for a renewed commitment to improved communication and adherence to the principles of site-based decision-making outlined in our contract. Let's work together to build this district collaboratively, ensuring that our teachers, the people directly supporting students, are an integral part of the decisions from the start. Thank you, and we look forward to continuing this partnership to create best outcomes for students and our community.
Thank you. Board reports.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank all the people who supported me in this election to get me here. It was a bit of arm twisting to begin with, but I'm excited about being here and being able to serve you and reach out to me if you have questions or concerns. I'm always available to listen, and I really plan to do my very best for you. So thank you for everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I will echo what Linda said. I am also excited to be here and to serve you all. And yeah, I'm gonna give it my very best.
Thank you.
No report at this time.
I have no report. Thank you.
I will just say a couple really brief things. I'm honored to serve in this position. It wasn't something that I was looking for, to be honest with you, but here I am. I would like us over the next year to try to get a little bit unstuck. And I'll say more about that maybe at future meetings, but I think the whole El Molino and Annalee thing is still kind of stuck and it's not helping any of us. Another thing that's related to that is that when myself or board members or members of our community, I would just like to urge us all, when we're trying to figure out what to support or what to oppose, that the guiding light for that is what's in the best interest of the students. And if we set aside what's in my best interest, or what do my friends want, or what does my community want, and just go, what do the kids need most, that may help us have a little bit of guidance. So I hope to represent a board that truly represents the entire district from one end to the other without any preference, that we be really, really open-minded, open-hearted, and even-handed. That's it.
Thank you. I'd like to start by welcoming again our new trustees and just my commitment to ensuring that, you know, we onboard you really well and bring you up to speed is it's a promise, and we're going to get that rolling. Thank Linda for meeting with me this week, and Rio for meeting with me via a phone call just to prepare them for this agenda. But I look forward to really onboarding both of you and then recalibrating the full board and going through a re-onboarding for the existing trustees. So I look forward to doing that in the new year. I want to congratulate in public Julie McClellan for being elected as CSEA president, and we're looking forward to our collaborative efforts under her leadership. And I know that she's going to represent her, the labor partners well. And then I'll keep the rest of this brief. You know, these semesters are long, and we all look forward to our holiday breaks to recharge and spend time with families. But I know how hard all of our staff works to support our students. So I want to acknowledge the efforts of everyone that's in all the buildings, from the sites, the teachers, the classified employees, to also our district office employees and our cabinet team as well, and the hard work of our board. It's a commitment, as our new trustees will see. It takes time to prepare for these meetings and to make the right decisions and make informed decisions. And then I would just like to wish everybody happy holidays.
Okay, so we're moving on to education services. Maybe we'll just start with public comment regarding to number one, which is consideration of approval to establish a new district innovative non-comprehensive high school. So Clay. Is Clay Patrick here?
I think that may have been the wrong agenda item. I was under the impression Clay was coming for the
And
approval of
Heidi?
new course.
You're up.
It was indicated as A1. You guys came to talk about the new course, correct? Okay. Yep.
Okay, so
We'll
this
put a
is
pin
really
in that.
A3.
Yep.
Okay, we'll come back to that. And then Jamie Malone, sorry, and Shannon.
Can you hear me now? Okay, there we go. Hi, I am Shannon Lowy. I am the school counselor at Laguna High School. It's good to see the faces that I know. Welcome to the faces that I'm going to get to know. And I am here with our wonderful history teacher and one of our lovely students to represent Laguna's input and views that we would like you to know. So with that said, I'm going to pass it off to Jamie.
Good evening. I'm Jamie Malone, a teacher at Laguna High School. Go Rhinos. We're here. Boop, boop. I'm here to tell you the real life story of the starfish. I'm sure you've heard the starfish story. The boy who threw one starfish back at a time, and it was asked why he was throwing a starfish back into the water when so many were left out suffering. And he politely replied, "It made a difference to that one." This is the story of Laguna High School. I can tell you individual stories about each student. We have a student that's never passed a class before and now has all A's and B's. We have a student who rarely spoke up and now attends and is involved with the Forestville Chamber of Commerce and shares many of their thoughts. We have a student that didn't attend classes and now runs our student council and our music studio. The stories are endless. Please continue to prioritize these students. It does make a difference. As you consider a new school, please talk to the community that's already there at the Forestville campus. I talked to the staff at Laguna and let them know that I would share their thoughts, their excitements, and their concerns about a new school. Personally, I think what an amazing opportunity for the community, a better uses of resources that we have, but I have to question, are we using our current resources wisely? One staff says, "Please remember, if the stool doesn't have 3 legs, it will fall over." If we have the iAcademy, we have Laguna, and we have a community or an innovative school, they each need equal attention, resources, and supports, or it will fall over. Another notes that a current staff feel that they have been ignored. The current tools and resources are not all supporting our students, although they're on campus. So how are we adding a new school or even a new program? Another says, "Have you considered additional staff? El Molino had 3 night and 2-day custodians. Logan cleans our classrooms. He cleans for the Parks and Rec. He will be in charge of the new, not yet up and running makerspace maybe, and the new school. So consider all parties involved. Logan is very important to us. He does a lot for us. Make sure he is supported." Others question attendance clerk, yard supervision. That's all currently handled by our principal, Greg, counselors, office staff. Personally, first and foremost, focus on what we do have at that site. Laguna is encourage students to attend Laguna for what we have, our differentiated instruction, our smaller classes, our hands-on learning, and our personal attention to each and every student. At Annalee, I had dozens of students in my academic support class asking to go to Laguna. We have space, we have the desire, we have the dedication, and we have the ability to make a difference in their lives. So build on what we do have. Involve our students and our staff on the planning team. They have proven to be leaders. Lift them up, encourage them to do so. Please think it out. Make it successful. Prioritize Laguna and the lives of our students that we are making a difference for.
That is your time. I was under the impression that as the group that we actually had 15 minutes in the.
No, it's 3 minutes per person, 15 minutes per item.
For an entire group, if everybody was speaking on the same item.
Which we are.
Yeah,
We're all speaking on the same.
Do you have, so I think the confusion was, did you submit individual cards?
we were thinking that we were coming up here as a team and that it was falling under 15 minutes. So we were on different pages.
I mean, we're happy to give you
Um,
each the.
I would love
yeah,
to read
of
what
course.
what I've written, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. My name is Shannon Lowy, and I'm the school counselor at Laguna High School. I have been a counselor in this district since the 2020-2021 school year, and I am passionate about supporting our continuation high school and other alternative education programs. During my time in this district, I've witnessed the importance of alternative education in serving students who don't thrive in the traditional settings. For instance, I've seen students who struggle in larger traditional schools find their footing, build confidence, and graduate with clear post-secondary goals at Laguna High School. While I have concerns, I wholeheartedly support this community school initiative and its mission to address the needs of these students. The pillars of the California Community School Partnership Program resonate deeply with my educational philosophy that every student deserves a holistic, inclusive, and empowering educational experience that recognizes and addresses their unique needs. I'm proud to work for Laguna High School because I believe these values are directly reflected in the work that we already do. While I support this initiative, I have significant concerns about the rollout and sustainability of this program. It is essential to prioritize Laguna High School in the process to ensure we do not overextend our already limited resources. For example, since we said goodbye to our last campus supervisor during the 2022-2023 school year, our principal has served as our acting campus supervisor, managing both Laguna students and the Annalise students who attend classes on our campus. Will this initiative provide a dedicated campus supervisor to serve both this program and Laguna High School? Additionally, the role of the principal's assistant at Laguna has continued to absorb multiple responsibilities over the years, making it increasingly difficult to meet duty expectations. Will this initiative include support to make this role more manageable before adding additional responsibilities? Moreover, we have faced a significant reduction in college and career and work-based learning supports this year, directly impacting my role and our ability to provide essential services like dual enrollment, financial aid assistance, and workforce and career readiness programming. These already impacted roles will only face greater strain and the addition of this program without deliberate planning. Despite these challenges, I deeply believe in our ability to serve more students and know we will do whatever we need to do to support them. However, adding more responsibilities without a robust plan to ensure success raises serious concerns about sustainability. Although discussions about this initiative have been ongoing since the 2022-2023 school year, this vote feels rushed. Launching a community school in the 2025-2026 school year with 30 freshmen is a significant undertaking. How will eligibility for this program be determined, and how will equity be ensured in the selection process? These questions need clear answers to ensure the program's ability to fulfill its mission from the start. For example, will the application process include outreach to underserved communities or prioritize students with unique needs who aren't adequately served by traditional schools?
That's your time.
Thank you. I will send it to you.
You can
hopefully.
finish, Shannon.
Can I?
Yeah.
Thank
please.
you. I appreciate that. To address these concerns, I'm towards the end. I recommend 3 things. I ask that you clearly communicate a developed phase rollout plan with milestones for implementation and post-opening stages that tracks progress and addresses the gaps early on. This plan should include input from critical stakeholders such as the district staff, community members, and the districts impacted, including Laguna staff and students. Establish a reliable and consistent strategy for meaningful communication with district employees and the broader community and continue these strategies throughout all phases. This should include opportunities for input earlier in the process to foster collaboration and transparency. Create a comprehensive plan to ensure that Laguna High School's resources, staff, and programs are protected and supported throughout this transition and afterwards, expressing how the Community School Initiative supports the success and longevity of Laguna High School program. This includes addressing the current gaps and ensuring our roles are not overburdened. Looking ahead, I envision that this program broadening its eligibility criteria to serve younger students under 16 who may need alternative pathways for reasons beyond credit recovery. This could address critical gaps in West County, especially socioeconomic disparities, and provide a proactive approach to education. In closing, I support this vision of a community school. I urge the board to consider a more thoughtful planning to ensure the program's success and alignment with district goals. And I thank you for letting me finish and your commitment to providing and improving education for all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Paige Greco.
All right, folks. I'm not going to say anything probably with nearly the eloquence that Shannon just did, but tellingly, I feel like I agree with her on just a number of counts. I want to start out by saying I'm not opposed to the community school. In principle, the small school environment and some of the alternative programs that a community school structure would allow seem like ideas worth pursuing. I was going to point out that we do actually do a lot of things that are in line with that at Laguna, and that I feel like we should be building on what we have there. I've been to many of the meetings concerning the development of the community school. I'm sure that you all see me at the back doing my grading at board meetings. And I have some concerns. Among them, the shapelessness of the plan at this point. I feel like the way that I've heard it, it's dependent on sort of hiring these unicorn teachers that have multiple subjects. And while I understand that that allows for some of the innovation that we're trying to build into sort of this particular thing, that I haven't heard any sort of concrete plans for what precisely the school is going to look like. And that tells me that maybe we're expecting that these unicorn teachers that we're going to hire are just going to figure that out. And I'm worried that we're setting those people up to be building the airplane while they're trying to fly it. And that concerns me. I'm also a little bit concerned about the notion that the first interim budget outlines a need to cut something like 8 full-time positions from Annalee High School. And at that same time, we're going to be hiring 2 people at this new school, which seems fishy in the extreme to me. Those don't seem like things that we could take our teachers here and have them apply out there, because they would need to have those multiple credentials. And likely the people that we would unfortunately have to cut loose here probably wouldn't have those. So I'm a little bit concerned that we would be, even though it's grant money and it's coming out of a different pot, that we would be using money that we could be using to sustain programs that we already have. I'm also concerned that I've been to some of the meetings where the community needs and desires are being discussed, as since this process is supposed to be driven by needs and desires out of the community. And I feel like my experience in those meetings actually made me less reticent about this whole plan, and that I liked the things that I heard there. However, I haven't seen any of those ideas incorporated into a concrete plan that feels actionable to me and feels less amorphous than all of these things that we could do and that it could be, instead of actually talking about what it will be and what we think it is. And that gives me a great deal of pause. I'm concerned too, to echo Shannon, that this feels fairly rushed, especially with concern to the way that the teachers have been involved. And in concern, not, I feel like the meetings that I've been to out in the community have not been, that they've been well managed, but that, again, I'm not seeing anything in terms of that actionable, concrete, what is this going to look like kind of thing. And to give some sense of what my anxiety comes from, it's because the first 2 years that I was here were the 2 years that we had the middle school out at Forestville. And that ended up being a thing where it was a great plan and we had people who enrolled and it fizzled because we couldn't support it financially. As Mary Fricker pointed out, we have a structural deficit as we've been talking about our first interim budget. And my concern is that even though this will be something that is meeting the needs of students that perhaps are not met by a traditional school, that we will get these kids out there, that we will build this thing, we will whip it into being out of the ether. And then we'll have to let it sit and wither and die because we don't have the money to sustain it. Because even though we have the grant money now, I'm concerned that the structural deficit will mean that after that money goes away, that we'll be leaving some of these kids in this part of the community that we intend to serve high and dry. And I would want us to go into this with a much more solid plan that feels well articulated and that addresses some of these concerns before we just sort of plow forward out of sheer will, hoping that everything else will come tumbling after and fall into place. I would love to think that that would happen. I've seen too many things in terms of the middle school, in terms of consolidation, et cetera, that I think give me concrete reasons to maybe have that kind of wild faith. So I hope that as this goes forward, I understand that grants also come with due dates, and that that's probably why we're having this conversation when we're having it, and that that's not something that we all necessarily have control over. And that's reality. However, I really hope that before this just goes plowing forward, that we come into this with a much more well-articulated and well-conceived kind of plan so that we don't have to leave this beautiful thing that we intend to build, and hopefully we do, just to sort of wither. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Before discussion, you get.
We need to have a discussion.
For our process.
So before we can have a discussion, we need a motion. And the motion would be to approve the establishment of the non-comprehensive high school. And then we'll get a second, and then we can open this up for a discussion. Would anyone like to move?
I move that we approve the consideration of a new district innovative non-comprehensive high school.
Do we have a second? Okay. All right. So,
No, I can present. I have a presentation.
Chris, please.
Yep. So, I laid this out in the board item for both the board and the public. And I do also want to remind the new trustees and the board and the public that, in the December 11th board meeting, I provided a comprehensive overview of all of the different steps that have been taken to collaborate and ensure that the vision is well informed. I'd also like to preface that we have another Community Schools Advisory Committee meeting tomorrow with collaborative efforts. 4 of our feeder school districts will have educational partners at that meeting. Monterey, Montgomery, Harmony, and Fort Ross. So we're really excited about continuing the collaborative process to inform that further development of the clear picture. And we believe that we would have been putting the cart before the horse had we brought some of those more finite details before the board before continuing to engage with our communities. I'll start with background and rationale. The board has heard me present each October regarding our enrollment studies. I've shared with you the initial data regarding the 3 years snapshot where we lost 87 students to non-comprehensive high schools. So I've added last year's data to this presentation. So over a 4-year period from 2020 to 2024, the district lost 101 students to non-comprehensive high schools or programs, which is a net loss of 1.195,800 in ADA. So almost 1.2 million. You've heard me talk about the outreach with regard to that first study, the 87 students from 2020 to 2023, and the information and what those families had shared with me in terms of indicating that they were seeking a smaller specialized learning environment. On November 16th, 2022, the board authorized the exploration of an innovative school. And again, I'm not going to recap the item from December 11th, but the outreach has included individual conversations, advisory committee meetings, a robust local control accountability process, which included 6 sessions with our educational partners who are widely represented by both labor partners, community members, board members, and such. Informal meetings with labor partners, visits to classrooms, and I did recently visit both Laguna and Annalee to talk directly with their staffs, and I'm going to continue to demonstrate our willingness to listen and to allow folks to help us inform the vision. We need to hear from our people. Rationale, this would address enrollment loss to neighboring school districts, responding to the demand for specialized small school experiences, expand the use of the Forestville campus, and maximize the resources of our operational positions at Laguna High School, which I'll go more into detail later in the presentation. Next slide, please. The vision and objectives are clear: create a non-comprehensive high school combining academics with technical and entrepreneurial skills, align with student interests and attract regional enrollment, but also prioritize in-district enrollment with students in our district boundaries. Leverage a community school model. And while this is a new school that's being proposed, the campus has been evolving as a community school with the pillars that I've described to you all. And that includes the Laguna program, first and foremost, because those are the students and the staff that are there on that campus. We know that the Laguna continuation program as a standalone continuation school is something that the district has been committed to since its existence. It's a very expensive program to run. We'll talk about that more later in the presentation. We envision continuing to build a true community school model with community partnerships, lease agreements, academic programs, and also resources for community members to find value in that campus. Next slide, please. Timeline for implementation. First and foremost, I'd like to say that we would have liked to bring this item before the board in September. The rationale for the delay was we felt it was imperative for SCO to complete the feasibility study and for us all to hear the results of that study for obvious reasons before considering the approval of the new school. Unfortunately, we were told that that feasibility study was going to be completed by the end of August and presented in September. Our tentative dates felt like they would have lined up. We would really have liked to bring this item before the board prior to that and continue our engagement processes to help inform the educational program vision so we can share that model. We can share the bell schedule. We can share the courses that we're going to be offering. We've had a lot of input to help inform concepts, but we're committed to continuing that engagement. And tomorrow night's meeting is extremely important. And then we'll be coming back in January and we'll be meeting with our Sebastopol feeder schools. And as I mentioned on the 11th, we're committed to continuing monthly advisory committee meetings throughout the growth process of this program. So the phased grade level development, which we believe is advantageous both fiscally as well as just being more reasonable to grow the program one grade level at a time. So conceivably, we would launch the program with a 9th grade cohort. We'll talk about some of our target numbers in another slide, and then grow it one grade level at a time. And fortunately, my first administrative experience as the vice principal of Roseland Collegiate Prep, I was able to go through that administrative role while we were growing Roseland Collegiate Prep on the Ursuline campus one grade level at a time. So I'm going to draw on some of those experiences, things that we learned in that regard. It allows us to really focus on the initial cohort, learn from how that year went, really meet the interests of the next incoming cohort, face on, and refine the program as we add grade levels and ensure that it truly, the educational program truly reflects the interest of the students that would be attending. We're a public school district. This is not a school of choice. We heard really great comments, and I respect everything that was said tonight. But Laguna is a continuation school that can only serve students who are credit deficient, and they must be 16 or older. We are looking at our process in terms of we believe that this school needs to stay small. The enrollment processes will be clear, and we will have the ability to set our parameters in terms of the size. And I think that may answer some of the questions that we heard tonight. So next slide, please. Some of the program highlights that have been informed through our collaboration would showcase an educational model that integrates academics. We are in development phases, and I want to thank Dale and our partners for the initial build out of our makerspace. We think it's going to be an incredible resource for our Laguna students, for our feeder school, upcoming students, but also for students of this new innovative program. The design would be that the students learn their core content through project-based learning, solving real-world problems, align with those core content standards, giving our staff and our students the ability to really integrate and see the value of cross-curricular collaboration. Individualized four-year plans, internships, and industry engagement would be a focus, and that's what we've heard from our educational partners. And it also is demonstrated in the data and research that we've seen in analyzing community schools and other innovative programs. I think that we have a possibility to provide hybrid learning model for flexibility and expanded course access, and specifically that has come to light as a big interest for folks that live in our far communities. Again, we're serving students from Fort Ross to the Marin County border, and there's been a lot of interest expressed in the potential for hybrid. Spoke to this ongoing community engagement, collaboration with West County feeder schools. The superintendents of our Russian River feeder school districts are extremely excited about this possibility, and they've been engaged with many, many conversations and have already informed me that there are a lot of their students who are interested. Those are micro communities, and not all the students that come out of those communities feel like they find their place at Annalee when they step into a large comprehensive high school. So that's something that I've heard both from the superintendents, but also from students. Again, I was agendized at the October 15th Monorio regular school board meeting, and there were, I believe, 10 8th graders in attendance, all very interested in learning more about this program. We will continue to talk about the evolution of educational programs district-wide through our LCAP educational partner engagement processes, as we'll be revising year one of our new 3-year plan in the spring semester. Financial considerations. Again, you know, Laguna's been around for a long time. It's a great program. I'm a former continuation high school teacher myself. I taught for 7 years at Ridgeway High School before becoming an administrator. I believe in the concept of a really well-established continuation program. I think that the Laguna staff and students have done an amazing job of creating a culture there that's really inclusive and it's special. It really is. So I want to acknowledge that, and we don't intend to change that. We want to leverage the culture that's been built there to create this community school model with additional educational programs. However, as you see with many of the other districts in both Sonoma County and surrounding counties all over the state, many districts have made the decision to absorb and absolve their continuation programs within the comprehensive high school to maximize resources. So what I've laid out here for you is the costs of our operational positions, which have not been and will not be financially solvent. The enrollment offsets the revenues we receive for our per pupil funding allocation through the LCFF, offset the teaching costs. The operational costs, there is no revenue that generates that offsets those costs. This model will allow us to serve more students with less staff than a traditional high school model. We've talked about that.
The Laguna costs?
This
or
is
or the new
No, this is
school costs?
this is something that we've been committed to. The outreach therapist is new as of 2022-23. That was a position that was served through West County Health Partnerships in past years. But going back to when Laguna existed here on the Annalee campus, we were committed financially to a principal, a counselor, and an administrative assistant, with only enough offsetting expenditures and revenues to justify the teachers. So it's a very expensive program to commit to long-term. I think that this is something that may, if we didn't have the opportunity to look at creating a new program with the structural deficit and with the state of our budget and with declining enrollment, it may be difficult for the district to justify continuing to operate a standalone continuation school. That's further part of our rationale of increasing student opportunities and ongoing revenues that will help offset those administrative costs and operational costs. Maximizing district expenditures and revenues. I mean, those numbers, I'll stay on that slide for one more moment. Just let that sit with you for a second. Next slide, please. Maximizing district expenditures and revenues. I've explained that. So shared operational costs with Laguna High School, use of existing support staff for administration, operations, and counseling, a commitment to the long-term stability of both programs. I have a passion for continuation education. Again, many other districts have made the decisions to absolve their standalone continuation high schools. I don't want to see that happen here. Increase district enrollment to offset staffing costs. And primarily, first and foremost, to serve the students who are interested that have fled our district because we don't offer a program that's 9-12, that's non-continuation. The numbers speak for itself. I showed you 101 over the past 4 years for over $1 million lost in ADA. A tentative startup budget. You know, we understand that there will be increased custodial needs. That's something that Jenny and I have been in a discussion with. That's not included here at this time, but that is something that we know we need to address. We heard Paige talk about the grant. We don't have a grant right now. We're writing a grant that's due in February for the Community Schools Partnership Program. That grant could provide funding for up to $712,000 over 5 years, with an initial allocation of $150,000, then about $112,000 over the next 4 years. That money would be utilized to support the community school model on the Forestville campus. However, with or without the grant, we've had discussions that we see this as an advantageous decision for the district to potentially make, because we can increase our revenues through serving more students, which would then, as the program grows, be financially feasible for both the teacher to student revenue costs offset, but also support those operational costs, which we have had no historical way of offsetting in the current structure of the program. This is an outline of our goal to target 30 students with 2 inaugural teachers. We show you the revenues at 100% attendance based on the current local control funding formula per pupil allocation of 14,000 and some change per student. We show you the numbers at 95% attendance, and we show you the numbers at 90% attendance. If you recall, when Andrew talked about the first interim budget, it's really important to understand that our revenues are only maxed if we realize our ADA, right? So we don't believe we're going to have high costs for textbooks. We believe that the curriculum can be developed more holistically and organically with a lot of supplemental materials and a lot of opportunities to integrate and cross-collaborate. We're going to further flesh that out tomorrow night and in the ongoing meetings. My goal would be to bring the board back a clear picture of an educational program model once we've met with both the Russian River feeder school districts and the Sebastopol districts to help give us some more input on that. But we have some really clear concepts in mind from our conversations and from our visits to other programs like this. So I've laid out a tentative budget that obviously will fluctuate depending on our future plans and then depending on the enrollments. Next steps: continue ongoing educational partner engagement with our labor partners, our students, our parents, our feeder districts, community partners. Submit our application for the California Department of Education CDS code. We intend to choose primarily classroom, which would allow us to have that hybrid option appropriately. Finalize the educational program development and ensure that that is clear, and the plans that we heard folks speak to tonight are further fleshed out and articulated in a sound manner. Recruit inaugural cohort and staff for the 2025-26 school year and apply for WASC accreditation. This obtaining a CDS code slide, this is information that's in the board agenda item, but essentially we have to apply. You can only apply within a 12-month window of starting a new school. One would think it would be the opposite, that you'd have to apply more in advance. So we're within that appropriate window, and I've been in touch with the California Department of Education regarding that process. I collaborated with Greg in putting together these slides, and I took the CDS code, Greg took WASC and did the research and contacted the folks to learn what steps would need to be taken. So I'd like to invite Greg up just to speak to this last slide, obtaining WASC accreditation.
Okay. Oh, I can't read that. That's okay. So yeah, for WASC, really the idea is we would be submitting our application on the very first day of school. in August. And what this would look like with some of the conditions of eligibility for WASC. One of them is the school must be in at least the second semester of operation. So we would submit our application on the first day of school. We would have which would include the WASC self-study. We would have our initial WASC visit in December, which would be completed in time for the January commission meeting that WASC holds when they issue your accreditations. The waiting game is horrendous on that most times. We would then be issued our initial accreditation in January. And depending on, the conversations about whether A through G or that sort of thing. But in order to apply for A through G, you need that WASC accreditation. And so if that was the will to do that, we would have that in hand to be able to do that January of the first year.
Thank you, Greg. And we intend to write all courses as A through G and model the core courses that we have already approved at Annalee. Obviously, the instruction and the delivery method would be different, but we intend to offer the core. We also want to explore integrated humanities to cover social sciences and pay homage to a program that I know was really robust and well received at El Molino. After I presented to the Monterey board, John Kornfeld, current board member there and longtime professor at Sonoma State in the School of Education, reached out, thanked me, appreciated the ideas and offered to help. We're going to loop him in with our design team as we really start to look at curriculum development to support our teachers and ensure that we have a really robust educational program for those freshmen. I intend to talk to folks like John Greck, who were a part of the development of the integrated humanities. I think it's a much more innovative way than to roll out the standard model of World US GovEcon at this type of school. That's definitely something we're very interested in. Again, the cross collaboration opportunities are going to be the foundation of the educational model. We envision, I've had some questions regarding electives. We envision offering like an innovative arts elective block in which we have one G elective, A through G approved elective course title, which will allow our teachers to work together from the core, create projects for students and integrate those 4 core content areas in those projects, allowing them to go deeper into the content standards of each of the 4 core respective subjects. So again, we really want to continue to hear from prospective students, from community members, and from our current staff regarding how we can create the most dynamic, small, non-comprehensive program in Sonoma County. Questions?
Chris, I have something that I would like to read.
Sure.
So all board members, if you're registered with the California School Boards Association, gets a daily, if you can believe it, and I'm trying to find it here as I talk, a daily newsletter basically from the California School Boards Association that is quite dynamic and actually quite informative. And it's all kinds of articles and all kinds of information from all over the nation and all over California. And it's all combined by Troy Flint, who is the CSBA's, he's their media dude. best way to call him. Let me find this because it's this, and this came out just a couple weeks ago, I think. Here it is. And it hit me so much with regards to what it is we're talking about here tonight. And I had no idea that this was so profound. So let me find it, if you don't mind me taking a second.
Sir.
So on the financial side, you showed a slide outlining the costs of Laguna.
Correct.
And then when you showed the costs for the community school, there was no principal, there was no counselors, it was very bare bones. Is the assumption that the Laguna staff would take on all of those roles for also the additional students at the community school?
That's part of the rationale, yes. Again, because there's a cost that doesn't offset itself with funding based on revenues from enrollments. And then as the program grows, those operational positions and supports would be further analyzed to look at justification for additional positions.
How do the Laguna folks feel about taking on another, 40 students in the first cohort?
I think we've heard from them this evening. I think that I think the concerns are ensuring that Laguna doesn't feel as though they're second on that campus. I think that's the model that we want to create, is that it's a true community school. I think I really appreciate what Shannon and Jamie have shared. I know that Greg is up for the challenge. I know that if we acquire the Community Schools Partnership Program grant, we will be writing that grant to fund a community schools coordinator that would assist in the leadership aspects of that school. That would be something, if we don't acquire the grant, as we grow the program and sustain more revenues through enrollments, that we would just fund at the district level. So yeah.
So, I mean, conceptually, I'm really in favor of this. I think just about everyone who spoke tonight said the concept of it is really, it's really good. The concern is in the details, right? And so when I look at the budget that you have, $20,000 for incidental materials and $5,000 for this, it just doesn't seem realistic. And so, and also the fact that we're asking the Laguna team, which is already, I think, probably pretty stretched. I mean, they do an amazing job, but they're pretty stretched, to also basically help run this other school initiative, especially in its first year, when there's systems and programs and processes and all the stuff that it takes years to really get worked out, is going to be not gelled yet. So I think I just need to understand more how it's really going to work financially. The ideas are good. It's like the plan makes sense, but the tactical implementation of the plan feels a little squishy.
So I think, Jenny,
what do we do about that?
if you could throw up the financial considerations slide again. The financial considerations, then we'll go to the tentative budget.
So this is existing.
This has been existing for
this
a
is
long
like
time.
Existing cost.
And if you think about the revenues generated with max capacity students in the current Laguna model, I really want you to understand that many other districts have faced these considerations and have absorbed their standalone continuation high school to offset their budgetary concerns, to maximize the operational staff at those comprehensive high schools. We're one of very few districts that operates a true standalone continuation school.
That's
Essentially,
that's a different scenario. I mean, I hear you, and there's risk, there's danger in that.
I
But
fear
we're
that it
not
won't be sustainable, Louis, is one of my biggest fears.
probably true.
Right.
But is the answer to that to have that same team run another program?
I don't think it's financially feasible to hire new operational positions while you're growing a new school, right? We're trying to make financially feasible decisions, and so I hear you, and I know that that's some of the things that have been shared with me, but we're trying to make sure that this pencils out and that it allows us to continue to support Laguna in its current state long-term, and also create this opportunity for students.
I think it could pencil out, but you really need buy-in from the Laguna leadership.
I understand.
like at a very detailed level that they like fully eyes open understand this is what's being asked of them and they go, yeah, I'm in. I really want to do this. Otherwise, it's a little bit pushing something that maybe we don't really have full buy-in on. Maybe you have it. I don't know. I haven't talked to Greg and his folks, but
I think
that would be
Shannon
my
has told
concern
me
that we get
she
there.
believes in it and she's up for the challenge. And I think, why don't we let the Laguna team
Yeah, please.
talk? I mean, that's why.
Greg, you hear where the concern is? It's like for your sake.
I hear you. And you know, I've had conversations with staff, and while I don't want to speak for anybody, what I can tell you on a couple of fronts is this excites the heck out of me. We get to do something from the ground up and try to build something that's going to be good for kids. And you know, it's, if you look at our numbers right now, our enrollment right now is quite down. We got about 25 spots we need to fill. You know, I look at our kids that's left, but they're amazing and watching their growth over the last 2 years. That's what gets me excited about this work. And when I look around the county and see what's happening in other districts, and I look at this, you know, I can read through the tea leaves, and I know that we value Laguna High School, and I know that it's valued. I know we do some really, really amazing work, and we have amazing staff. We also talk all the time about how we wish we could get kids before they're 16 years old. This is an opportunity for us to serve the need of those kids, and that's exciting to me. And so I think, you know, Shannon said conceptually we like this idea, we get it. It's going to be work. All of this is hard work. And I don't want to speak for anybody, and I'll pass the mic, but from where I stand, I mean, I'm all in on this. I think it's a real opportunity to serve a gap that, you know, we have in our district.
It's really helpful. I think you can, I mean, I'm speaking for the board, I'm speaking for myself, I guess. I mean, I think we need to know that you guys feel that way and that you're excited about it and that you're in, and then it's much easier for us to support it. But if we have a fear that we're cramming something down your throats, nothing works. So this is really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
They got to hear us on.
And I think there are some additional challenges, right? We're writing 2 WASC reports. It's a new CDS code. There's a lot of these things. But if I think about the total number of students being served, right? So currently we're at 60. I sure hope we fill it to 80 and we add another 30 to that. Was it 110 students? Yeah. Don't quote my math there. As we look at ratios and what, you know, Annalee High School and accounts for a load is, I'm not positive what that is, but I'm betting it's more than 110, and it's more work, and we love to give that individual detail and attention to every student. I think we can still do that with an additional 30.
Great. Awesome. Shannon, do you want to address this too?
Absolutely. I agree. I think the essence of all of this is we have space at Laguna and we want to support more students. Chris did a soupçon over at Laguna, and the 2 themes that came up in that time was we're concerned about the bandwidth and the spread of the resources. And I'm not just referring to, like, yes, Greg will be a shared principal, I'll be a shared counselor, Dawn, I imagine, would be a shared office manager. And yes, that is a lot for us as well. I think it goes a little farther beyond that when it comes to like our principal acting as the campus supervisor. And we had college and career support 4 days a week until this school year. Now we're down to 1 day a week. We're in a kind of a fluctuation stage when it comes to work-based learning. And Stacy is, only at Annalee now. And so there's been so many transitions that have happened that it's the how. And I believe we can do the how. We want to do the how. We would like, truthfully, I think primarily, we would like to fill our spots at Laguna. And I know that the students are there. I think we've really done a much better job this school year at working together across Laguna and Annalee and with Chris on figuring out what our systems are in terms of referrals and how to do that. And I hope that we're in a forward moving space of we're going to be able to get more students over to Laguna that need us and need something different for a variety of different reasons. But one of the themes that continues to come up also in the transfer process is we don't have a space for students under the age of 16. They have to wait until they're 16 to be able to come to Laguna. And by that point, most of those students are juniors. Some of them are sophomores, but they have fallen really far behind. And for me, credit recovery as the counselor of the students that I serve, that I'm proud to serve, these are students who got lost in the school system long before they made it to high school and never got taught in a way that met their learning styles and kept them engaged. And so this is our opportunity to serve those kids. And I want to do that. And I want to make sure that Laguna is top priority. I mean, Annalee and Laguna are here. We're programs that are already going. Like we've got structural things that we need to work out and figure out and get that foundation there and strong. And so for me, there's a lot of like making sure like your programs that are here already are on solid ground and also I read whatever your phrase was of the tea leaves. I read between it too. If this is going to protect the longevity of Laguna and not getting absorbed, then I want to do that as well because I don't want Laguna to get absorbed by Annalee. So.
Thank you. It's really helpful.
So I did find my little statement. Of course, it just flipped again. Jeez. I tell you. God darn it. Here it is. We send our kids to school to get them ready for a successful future. So it's concerning that less than half of middle school and high schoolers in a recent national survey said that school challenges them in a good way or gives them a chance to do what they're best at every day. Only about half said they feel prepared for the future. As hard as our teachers are working, school feels irrelevant for many kids, but it doesn't have to be that way. When kids can see the connection between what they're being taught and what the future holds, they learn. It's clear that our assignment as adults, and I might add school board members, is this: make sure our schools engage all kids, no matter their background or where they live. Every school can be a place for connection, rigorous learning, and even joy. And when kids are prepared for the future, our country will be too.
Thank you. Yes, Loretta.
I have just one quick question. Because this will fall under the umbrella of West Sonoma County High School or Annalee High School, will opportunities be available for these students to participate in band, music, athletics, all of that?
Yeah, I've been talking with Joe Elwood. He would apply for a multi-school district application with the California Interscholastic Federation to allow students to play interscholastic sports. And then obviously we would provide opportunities for those students to partake and engage in other extracurricular options, but I also foresee us as a community school with the Laguna program creating more opportunities for site-based clubs. Obviously, and many don't know this, but the CIF does not allow continuation students to play interscholastic sports. So we would want that opportunity for students that choose this type of learning model to continue their athletic careers or to engage in programs that we don't have to fund in that community school model on the Forestville campus. So Joe said he would have to apply in May, so there's plenty of time for that. So I think that that's an exciting opportunity to envision as well. While there may be many students that aren't interested in playing sports that are seeking this type of learning environment, there may be some, and they can do that.
Please.
Hey, I want to thank for the presentation. I thought it was great, and I really enjoyed hearing from the Laguna team. That was quite helpful because that question came up for me as well. I had some questions about the 30 students. It's like it sounded like you would cap it there, so like there's a way that you choose them, and I'm curious what type of like how that's done, or and also what happens if the 30 students come from potential like annually ones and aren't the ones that are leaving the district.
So the idea is to open it for freshmen first year, right? So students that are entering the 9th grade would have an opportunity to enroll. I think when you look at the target number, we wanted to be reasonable and not set expectations that we can't meet. We would staff the program appropriately with the teachers, and we felt like that was a good ratio to begin with, 30 students and 2 teachers. I think with a situation like this, because we are a public school district, as with many other schools, their capacity is such. The data shows that schools such as innovative small non-comprehensive programs should be 400 or less. We think a sweet spot is about 60 per grade level once it's grown out. So we would have to articulate clear enrollment deadlines that those families interested would have to meet. And if they didn't meet those deadlines, then those students would then enroll at Annalee. We would then have to create a system in which there's a lottery or a waiting list system, which many schools do in our county. So we're exploring the specifics in that regard so we can clearly outline that in our enrollment paperwork processes and make sure that message is clear to families that are interested. One of the questions I heard is when the school is grown multiple grade levels, would students be able to transfer back and forth? And I think that's something that we need to explore because we could create district processes that says no, but I don't know that that would be the right move as we want all of our students that come to West County to find their place. And Julie Aiello said this very eloquently, and I've shared this with others. When students find the place that feels right for them, everybody's better off, including the staff. So the students that we know have left the district, Rio, they were not interested in Annalee. They also weren't interested in Windsor or any other comprehensive high school. They were seeking a specific learning environment. And we have an opportunity, and we're going to prioritize in-district students because those are the numbers I gave you. I didn't give you inter-district numbers because we don't know where those kids from Rancho or Petaluma decide to go when they leave for non-comprehensive. But it's an opportunity to capture those students. The numbers are reasonable in nature. If you look at those 101 students that I talked about, from 2020 to 2023, it was about 30 per year. Last year, it was 12. So those numbers fluctuate. And I think that helped us kind of hone in on what would be a reasonable number of students to launch the program with. We may have more interest than that, and we would staff it appropriately. But we want to keep the program small. The integrity of an innovative non-comprehensive school is best at under 400. And again, I think the sweet spot is about 60 per grade level times 4 once it grows to full capacity. But these are things that we'll continue to explore. And I think that we have the ability to set clear parameters to keep it within the size that the district can serve, right? Just like we talked about recently, we are almost at max capacity at Annalee. Chuck and Joe and I were talking last night, and I was really curious, Joe, what was the largest that you remember in your tenure here that we had at Annalee? And it was about 1466, I think he said was the number in his head. And we're right around that number right now. The reason I bring that up is because we've created such a brand and a reputation that draws kids from all over the county. We're going to have to close doors at this campus soon. And we're going to do a really in-depth analysis. And Jenny, I'm going to lean on you because you're really good at this, of analyzing Annalee's max capacity when the new CTE program is up and the new portables are up, because that's all the space that we've got to grow. So we're going to have the same challenge here at Annalee that we will in this new Innovation Academy to keep it within the appropriate size that the district can serve. Yes.
So Chris and I have talked about this, but I thought I would raise this question and then Chris can answer it again. But my question to Chris was, freshmen or incoming freshmen, so our current 8th graders out in our communities are currently getting paperwork for incoming, their incoming freshman year. And I've been approached by a family who for years has talked to me about this school and is very interested in this new program. And they're like, well, what do we do? How do we apply for this new program? So maybe Chris can answer that question as well. What do they do in the interim while we're, getting all of the, getting this all together and organized?
Right now, we have a standard interdistrict request and in-district enrollment paperwork. Obviously, the board would need to approve, and it's your authority to do so, the recommendation this evening. Then we would revise our enrollment processes. We talked a little bit on the 11th about the amazing plan that the Annalee team has created to go out and recruit and do things a little bit differently in terms of promoting the Annalee programs and collaborating with feeder schools and counselors visiting and talking with students about 4-year planning. We would have some similar efforts in that regard. But again, I think that we've got superintendents out there of our feeder schools that are already recruiting for us, and they've got students identified waiting to hear what the board decides tonight. And I'll be really excited, obviously, if the recommendation is approved, to share that with those 4 superintendents and their communities tomorrow. But we'll be very mindful and strategic and intentional around how we ensure that we don't overpopulate any of our programs, including Annalee, Laguna, the iAcademy, and this potential new Innovation Academy. And it may come to the point where we have to turn interdistrict transfers away because we always have to serve in-district students. If they're in our district boundaries, we have to serve them, which means if we were ever at capacity at Annalee, my desk is flooded daily with interdistrict transfers. I think I had 5 new that Karen and I reviewed today alone. At that point, we would have to start turning people from outside of our boundaries away.
So this young man's at Oak Grove and he would be coming here as a freshman anyway. So he would just apply to Annalee.
Does he live in the district's boundaries?
He does not.
So then that would be an interdistrict
He would
transfer.
have to
So
be an
we would have in-district enrollment paperwork that reflects the new program so that families were clear. I'm trying to enroll at Annalee. I'm trying to enroll at the Innovation Academy. Correct. That's right.
Do you have a short question?
Can we get you mic'd up real quick?
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I'm Mike Police.
State your name for the record, please. Thank you.
I'm Judy Gooden. An Annalee graduate in 1976. Oh my goodness. Actually, it was before then, 71. What I'm hearing and not clear about is how do we make sure underserved students in our district aren't inadvertently less included in the application process? Because sometimes there's students who are from very poor, very downtrodden families who really need programs like this. And how do we make sure? It's often hard for those families to understand the processes. And how do we make sure they're served? I think that's a huge concern that I'm kind of hearing.
Well, I think that, we have to be really cautious not to track any students into in particular programs. I think we have to be clear in how we communicate the options that we provide to all students as a district. And then that's a family's choice. We can't say, well, your background, you belong here. That's not the intention. The intention of this program is to create, high rigor opportunities, the community school model with our wraparound services, a different type of educational model. Identifying the specific needs of underserved students comes once they come onto our campuses and in those conversations. So I think the short answer is we can't track students. That wouldn't be appropriate. We need to lean into those interests and I think the opportunity in a small setting like this is we really get to know those folks as they enroll and when they enroll and as they continue to go through their schooling. And then obviously, as we do with students who enroll at Annalee, we look at their transcripts. We look at the CUME files that come over from the middle schools, and we can identify the specific needs that were targeted when those students were in the lower grades, such as IEPs or 504s or academic struggles. So I think that's part of the due diligence that we need to do as professionals. And I think that we have an incredible multi-tiered systems of support situation here that's advantageous for us to identify the challenges that
The question
underserved
was
students.
about how these kids find us, and maybe the answer is if the feeder schools are well aware, they can recommend
Sure.
to a kid, you might want to go apply here.
Yeah, I just wanted to be
That might
clear
the
about
best,
tracking
right?
and the
Yeah.
intention.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Linda.
I actually have a comment first. Thank you. As someone just coming on, all the information is very valuable, and I appreciate everybody's comments and also the comments from the audience too. As a former middle school teacher, I have seen many of my students not feed into this school simply because the program was too big, it didn't really fit them, and I think this would offer those type of students a door that they could walk through. And I look forward to seeing this program blossom and, just go crazy. But I do want to caution that I feel like some of the staff maybe needs to be included and their comments and just the information given to them. It's so important to keep including all the people that are maybe not directly involved because they might be Laguna teachers and this is a different program, but they're going to be on the same campus.
Yep.
And it's just and West County teachers too, simply because it's a family. That's the way I try and look at things. This is one big family where we want to make sure everybody understands where we're coming from and all the details. So I appreciate it, but I would encourage everyone to keep that door open and let that information go back and forth. And just the Laguna staff that would be taking on the additional, that you can cry uncle if you get overwhelmed, because I totally know how you get so many hats to wear sometimes that you don't even realize how overwhelming it can be. So make sure you keep talking to us.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So what exactly are we voting for? It's consideration of approval. So are we approving the creation of a new school and everything that goes with that? What?
You're approving the establishment of a new school and giving me authorization to apply for a CDS code. And then future items will be brought back to the board regarding our course creation processes, if we create new course titles, if we make revisions to the current existing graduation requirements at this time. We don't intend to, but we're conceptually looking at building a program that really aligns with the needs and interests of our students. But I think we can do that within the framework of the current existing graduation requirements. But I think that's a question I'll have for folks tomorrow night. And as we continue to flesh this out, elective credits are elective credits. Core is core. The state lays out most of your scripted core required courses, right? 4 years of math, the English, the science, or sorry, 4 years of English, the math, the science, so on and so forth. Currently, the district requires 70 elective credits plus the practical and fine art. Within those elective credits, that can be pretty much anything that we offer, as well as CTE. So as I spoke to earlier, to reduce the costs of offering single subject specific programs, we're looking at this innovative arts like elective block that can be very enriching, that can incorporate the skills and talents of our teachers and staff, but also community members, business experts, artists, computer science professionals, things like that. So the intention is to create something dynamic that doesn't cost as much as a big program.
Ria.
Yeah, so do you know what the landscape looks like for these types of teachers who would fill this classroom?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I'll make an example of the visit that Dale and Greg and I took to the Milpitas Innovation Academy, and they took a similar approach in finding teachers with multi-credentials that could be nimble and dynamic. And I think with our competitive salary structure, I know we're looking for unicorns, but I'll tell you, we've drawn some incredible educators from other districts. And I won't put anybody's name out there, but we do a really good job recruiting. And I think that we're a destination district. We've established that. I love that catchphrase, but it really is a place that I think we can pull the right teachers that could really be the perfect fits for this program from neighboring districts or teachers that are emerging. I think we're open to all possibilities, and I think that I've been fortunate enough to work with teachers that are unicorns. I know there's a lot of them out there. One of our vice principals was one of my rock star teachers at Cloverdale High School, and she has 3 different credentials, and we utilize those credentials, and she was able to provide a lot of program with one person. So I know it's possible. I know that we did some things creatively when I was at Roseland Collegiate Prep. Our middle school teachers held multiple subject credentials, and we cohorted, which means that certain teachers focused on social studies and ELA, while the other teachers focused on math and science. I think that you can do similar work with single subject credential holding teachers. And I think that we're going to be targeting, English language arts plus CTE or a supplemental or special education. And we'll be targeting math and science plus CTE, supplemental authorization, or special education. And then I think the vision of exploring integrated humanities, which we wouldn't need to roll out until year 2, would also give us the nimble approach to providing English language arts and social studies. And so I mean, there's just a lot of flexibility with smaller non-comprehensive high schools, if you will.
Okay.
So I just wanted to give a little bit of a positive thought on this special innovative school, and the fact that I firmly believe we have a opportunity here to really meet the needs of a group of students that quite possibly we are not meeting their needs right now. I think we could really stand to let these kids find a home and make something available for them. I know myself and I know other people in our community have had children that could have benefited greatly from this opportunity and could have really thrived in this environment. And it could have made the world of difference for them in their education and not made their high school education such a almost disaster, and or made it so difficult. We also could maybe find a home for kids that would just as soon drop out and not graduate from high school. And I know that's a concern for us as trustees and as a school as a whole, that we don't want to see kids drop out of high school, that it's really important that they get their high school diploma. So I really want to encourage my fellow trustees to highly consider this program and let Chris and the team really fetter out all of the minutia that needs to come with it. You know, that's not our job. And work with our staff, work with the team that's putting this together, and continue to bring forth the great work that they've done. I also wanted to let everybody know that it was the board that hired Chris that in his interview asked him about this job. I mean, excuse me, this program, and said, how are you going to find us a new innovative type program? We want to see that. And we made that a challenge for him. And I, for one, want to say thank you for coming through with that item that we put forth as a board that hired him, because we as a board felt that it was something that was greatly imperative in our school district and could actually help draw kids to our school district and help shore up our budget that Mary, I know, is concerned about. So thank you, Chris, for doing that and for taking on that challenge and for not discounting what the board asked him to do.
So I would suggest that we're at the point where we actually have to make a decision here. Does anybody want to make a 1 or 2 sentence statement about why they're voting how they are? Like, not a whole thing, but just like, I'm a yes and here's why, or I'm a no and here's why.
I'm a yes, because we have to at least try. I mean, this could be worth a lot to a lot of kids over in the next couple of years. And that not only these maybe current kids that we're looking at for next year, but for the Laguna kids, to keep them in a place where they're successful. And that's why I'm a yes.
Rio, anything you want to comment?
Yeah, sure. I am also pro. I feel like there are a lot of different paths in this world, and having the options to follow the path that best represents you is very powerful. And I hope that all students have that option.
Mr. Chernella?
I'm voting yes.
You just heard what I said.
Okay. I'm going to vote yes. I'm concerned about buy-in. Chris, you and I talk about this a lot, but I really want to make sure that the people that really have to make this thing happen on the ground in the nitty-gritty are consulted and have real bad. Greg, it was extremely helpful hearing you support this. It kind of changed my mind about it, so thanks.
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
all those in favor say aye. Didn't we?
We already made a motion.
Yeah, it was at the beginning. It was 4 hours ago before. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, there you go, Chris. You got a new school. Okay, discussion and consideration of branding a new non-comprehensive high school.
Yeah, this is a board discussion. I didn't make a formal recommendation. I think that you all know that we've been talking about this with our community members, and I think that we've been referring to this as an innovation academy with respect to the folks that needed to have some input. And what's came about in those conversations is that it really makes perfect sense to brand it after El Molino. I think it pays homage to the tremendous history of that high school. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from the superintendents, from the current staff, from the community, from potential students, from trustees in neighboring districts. This is a board decision. This is a big decision, and I understand that branding and names mean a lot to people. But that is something that's come up in many if not all, of our discussions regarding what this could look like. So I think the board needs to have a discussion. The board's been, briefed, and this is not new, that's been floated, and we've lobbed it up to see if people like that idea. So I think y'all need to have a discussion, and then after you do that, then you can make a motion and second it and vote on a name. We do need a name for the CDS code. That's extremely important. It has to be defined as a school. The CDE is very specific about what's a school and what's a program, and this obviously, as it been presented and as it was approved by the board in the previous item, is a new high school. So we got to brand it appropriately, and I'll leave it to y'all.
And am I correct that for the application process for the grant, we have to have a name for the school too, right?
The grant is actually written more with respect for the current Laguna program, because you can't write that grant with an emerging new program. And the Community Schools Partnership Grant prioritizes rural districts that have a high percentage of unduplicated students. But obviously, as we're creating a community school campus here, the emergence and development of a new program, under the rationale that the operational staff will serve the educational program at the new high school, it's all one campus of students that are going to be learning in different ways, that will have a community. So we need a name for the new school that you just approved.
Does somebody want to start the discussion, or shall I?
Go ahead.
Linda can.
I mean, I've been at all the meeting. I've been at 2 of the meetings, one at Forestville and one in Guerneville on this. And when you've said El Molino Academy, I don't think there was negativity from the audience. I think also that the SCO study was released last week that showed that there was no chance of, currently and probably in the future, of ever bringing back the El Molino as we knew it. So I think this would be a way to honor that name and honor those people. And I think it's fitting for that campus. So that's what I think. Go ahead.
I'm a little concerned about using the El Molino name for this. There's, a lot of people that would be happy to have anything with the El Molino branding on that campus. And I've also heard from a lot of people that feel like they're just being thrown a bone, so they'll shut up. And that putting El Molino on the El Molino name on something that's not the El Molino High School of yesteryear is not truly honoring it. So I have to say I'm not against it, but I don't know that it has all the support that we're kind of hearing about here. So I'm a little on the fence with naming it El Molino.
That's fair.
I have similar concerns. I kind of feel like it's not our decision. I think it's the whatever the El Molino community is, and that's probably problematic because it's probably half a dozen different factions with very different ideas. But again, we have to make sure we have buy-in. If at the ground roots level we have support, then everything flows wonderfully from there. But if we try to sit on our ivory tower and say this is what it should be, it's not going to have. It's not sustainable. So I don't know what the solution is there. I'm like Sean.
Can I make a
kind of on the side.
recommendation that
Yeah.
we have to have a name so Chris can move forward with the CDS code, and maybe we consider it, we give it a name and we consider it a working name. It's not to say that that can't be changed, and it's not to say that we can't evolution cannot, say this is just not working and we're really all of a sudden got a lot of feedback that this is not. Now, how difficult is it to change the name with CDS?
Well,
We've done that before.
yeah.
It's not easy.
I think that that's my concern with creating a working name is that, rebranding historically in this district caused a lot of challenges. So I think that I think that we should hear from the public and continue the conversation. Look, I know this is a really difficult decision for the board to make. I think that we were very mindful in floating it and not defining it. And that's why I wrote the item as it was intended for the board to have a discussion to consider all various factors. But I think this would be an appropriate time to have public comment.
Greg.
I know with the CDS code, you said within 12 months. What's the timeline on the short end of those things? I know we got to get kind of moving and get something out there, but could it be something we can add to those ed partner meetings with those feeder schools and get some of that input? Would that still give us enough time?
Yeah, you have to apply within a year, but I think of opening the school. But I think with all the things that we've heard tonight, we have some things that we need to pull together, including recruitment, including enrollment paperwork, including the complete definition of what the educational program looks like, structuring and determining the bell schedule. And while we have concepts based on what we've learned thus far, we want to iron out those details as soon as possible so that we can continue our engagement. We can continue working with our Laguna staff and our other interested staff that want to provide input on how we can make this the best program possible. So that's that. From what I've learned, that's that.
Well,
we
and
don't
it
have a
does
lot of
not,
time.
it doesn't make sense to me that we're going to put paperwork out there and do a schedule for a no-name school. Right? I don't think that's appropriate.
Right.
I've heard some of the same things that Linda has heard, that there has been from people that have said that they thought it was a really nice gesture, actually, to name it El Molino in homage of what that campus was called. And I like the idea, and I'm more than willing to go with the El Molino Academy.
It seems we have a comment from the public.
I'm Lana McNamara, yeah. And I'm teaching English at Laguna High School. I also spent quite a few years doing special ed at El Molino. My biggest concern about calling it El Molino Academy is like Oakland Airport trying to do the San Francisco Oakland Airport. We're just creating confusion for your CDS numbers, for your mailing, for your transcripts, like the practical thing of having El Molino High School in databases and then El Molino Academy in databases. And then when those things start getting messed up, just a practical concern. Well, are we talking about the old El Molino High School, or we're talking about, we can't even like say what campus it is without people going, well, do you mean the old El Molino campus, or are you talking about the new Laguna campus? Or are you talking about where the old Laguna, like a fresh start? And I think that by calling it El Molino, and lots of people heard different things at Forestville, different apparently. I think that calling it El Molino is basically saying, you guys don't have a hope in hell, and so we're just going to take the name. And just gut stuff. I wonder though, whether calling it the Mill Academy might be appropriate.
Interesting. El Molino, the mill.
El Molino.
El Molino.
Interesting. As we explored schools, you know, the term innovation continued to come up, that Milpitas Innovation Academy. I think this is a really important conversation. I think that I really respect what we just heard. And we need to be very, very thoughtful.
Quickly.
Yes, and you know, we do have a board meeting on January 22nd. The CDS code does not, it won't kill us to apply after that time, but we would need, I think that the disadvantage in not choosing a name would be that we would be creating enrollment opportunities and starting recruitment efforts without a name. So is that the worst problem to have? I don't know. I don't want to make a decision that feels too rushed. I think this is really important to hear from as many folks that are actually at least in the room tonight. Paige?
Debating whether this is even, I think that if there's any possible way to put it off and do as Lewis was saying and get more community input, I think that in terms of, especially where the El Molino name is concerned and the notion of like, oh, we'll just change it. I have so many, like my PTSD is tingling so hard at the back of the room, I can hardly decide to do what to do with myself. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that way. And I feel like if you want this to go well, you should probably ask more people than are in this room right now. That otherwise it's just going to end up shooting you in the foot.
How can we do that? Do you have any, like, how can we reach out to the community with some kind of survey?
I went to at least one of the meetings that we had in terms of getting the feedback from the community. I wish that this had been discussed there. If we had just had a Dropbox that said, we're looking for names, what do you suggest? That would have been brilliant. For that matter, like, why not ask go out to the feeder schools, put a box in every, every office and say like, hey, are you interested in coming to this school? We're looking for a name. Drop in a suggestion. Like, get that from parents, get that from students that might be interested in this. Use it to drum up support if that's the thing that you want. That's off the top of my head in the 4 seconds I had to think about it.
Yeah.
Asking them to do that, because then I think we would actually get more.
Sure. Right. And I know that while it's kind of hard to demonstrate how much input we have received in those conversations with the feeder school superintendents that I'm collaborating with, they've gone out and brought that data back to me. But I think it's really important for the board to see that and not base it on hearsay. I'm not championing one way or the other. Paige.
Again, PTSD, having gone through the whole thing where it's like, oh, we're going to change the name of this high school, the one I'm standing in right now, and then having that ripped away from us. Like, what I'm going to say too is even the notion of that survey, the amount of transparency that I would hope that you would have around that. Yeah. And also, like, I remember the version of that went out and the amount of like leading question and the amount of like narrowing that down to one that just made me furious and feel helpless. Again, triggering, would be something where like, I would hope that you would, especially around that, and especially the fact that I'm standing here as a person who went through that, and I know that there are people in the community who might feel the same way. I would be careful how you word those questions. I would be careful to get input about that from people who are also not in this room, if that's the thing you're going to do with a survey, so that they don't feel like that's something that's replaying for them again.
Sure.
So, yeah. How many people from out in that community are in this room right now?
Sure, I can tell you that
So-
I've talked to the Monterey School Board. This discussion came up in their regular board meeting. all the trustees. I understand that, but I'm just trying to demonstrate the commitment that we've taken to really ensure that this is something that lands and is well informed. We can absolutely continue to have that conversation tomorrow. I think it's really important to hear from our current staff. What is that mechanism? I don't hate the idea of a Dropbox or a survey. I want it to be authentic. I want it to make sure that it is transparent and gives the board, the opportunity to make a well thought out decision. By no means was my intent to pressure the board. I anticipated that this conversation could come up and that we might need to consider, and I might need to recommend that we delay this decision. I think that there are many people that will be excited about the board's decision to approve the program. And I think that we can, while it obviously, as I mentioned in my presentation, the timelines have been delayed and we would have hoped not to be doing this in December. We can work with that and give the board more time to see that thoughtful process come to fruition. And we can still create enrollment paperwork. And as we talked about this through the process, we've tossed up the idea of an Innovation Academy branding in process. We can continue those conversations and say and articulate, hey, this new school has been approved. It's happening. Here's the work that we still need to do, and get more concrete feedback that I can share with the board.
The one last thing that I'll have to say is I hope that this will be something that really reaches out into the community and isn't just something that's decided by people who professionally go to meetings. Like, it's one thing to be like, to say we're going out to these school districts, and that's valuable feedback, clearly. But I hope that it reaches further than just people who are paid to be in rooms to make decisions like this, and actually goes out. Like I said, if it's something where it's like it's out in the broader schools, fine. And this is also me voicing a desire that I'm not paid to figure out. So I'm also going to say that. If it's put out in the media, Dale, you run a newspaper, great. Like, if we can solicit things through that, why not? Like, if it's...
Dale, we need to get you up in the mic. Yeah, no, this is a good conversation.
I think it's an interesting, if like you were doing a company and starting something, you'd work with a consultant or something, they come in and they present, here's 3 different names and a brand and all that with you, and you'd get feedback, and maybe you'd ask customers and things like that. What I was getting at is what is it you put out even in a survey? Like, here are the 3 choices, 10 choices, no choices. That gets to be, is it a popularity contest? And so I'm just trying to ask about that process. I think it's a good thing maybe to wait on it, but I am, I'm just saying I could put something on the Sebastopol Times and say, vote on a poll. How meaningful would it be? Right. And what do we do with them?
Mm-hmm.
No, I know that. I'm not saying that that's good enough, but I'm just saying whatever mechanism you come up with. Right. But so I'm not going to solve your problem, but I'm just trying to say it's a difficult process. And, it's easy to say, ask the community. It's hard to actually figure out what's even the decision you make when you ask the community. So I'm just pointing that out. Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we need folks at the mic. Yeah.
I think Guerneville Safeway, you're right. You're not going to find river people at meetings, but you might find them at Guerneville School, Guerneville Safeway. I'm a Rhino for over, I don't know how many years, but I'm an El Molino family and an El Molino taxpayer for all these years. So this is something I've always told Greg. I'm an El Molino family. I didn't get to send my last kid to El Molino. So yeah, we're still a little bit PTSD, but I'm a strong Rhino and I see what's good for our community. but please be careful with the name.
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is. I want to know what the river people think because it's their community that's left out. The community school you have going, I'm all excited. I'm all excited. The river community needs to be there and be enrolled. But just know that I don't have the answer, but go look for it or just involve us. We're a very strong community out at the river, very strong, years and years. So let's try to find them or even just put out a little bit of effort and then we can go, okay, we did it. And then let's go on. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Greenville Safeway. We're
I
all
do want
there.
to clarify, though, that for the board and the public, that the Community Schools Advisory Committee isn't just made up of paid professionals. We're talking about parents, trustees, volunteer trustees, community members. Sure, but they're people that are represented in their partner engagement, right? Folks that they lean on to help develop their LCAPs and help inform their district decision making. And, I encourage the superintendents to ensure that they brought a wide range of folks that represent their communities. And I think this is a very targeted approach to ensure that we're getting more buy-in, that we're hearing from more representatives from the greater Russian River area. While we're considering it's a river community, Fort Ross has their community, Harmony has their community, Monterey has their community, Guerneville has their community. So I think the intention was to ensure that we heard from the river community. And I don't want that to be unclear. It's not just the staff. We're talking about people that are stakeholders in the micro communities that represent what is Russian River. And yeah.
So it seems like we could decide whether or not to put this decision off to the 22nd. It seems that's kind of like a no-brainer. The other thing is, it just seems to me that, hey guys, it seems that the El Molino name is a little radioactive, and maybe we should err on the side of respect or distance and just maybe it would be honoring it, maybe it would be not, maybe we don't know enough to really make, it's a very nuanced decision, and maybe we should just stay away from that name and find something more neutral.
Well, my thought would be is if we were to do a survey that we actually put that out there, because I think we need to hear from the community about that. And that somebody just said out there, Russian River Academy.
I like that.
So we put that out there as an option, and then we put a other, and then allows people to give us another option. And then we bring back those options, and we then get to fetter that out in the future. And we ask our partner districts if they would help us through their parent squares, because they all use Parent Square like we do, and do a survey. I think we've done that before, and I think we could get that to help us get the information to our families and see if that doesn't give us more information.
And while we have a pretty well thought out engagement activity plan for tomorrow night, we're going to recalibrate and plan to ensure that we have opportunities to talk about, obviously what was approved tonight, but the dilemma and wanting to make the most thoughtful decision. By the way, I like that that idea that I heard floated in the audience. I think that the school is located in the Russian River. I think it's unique. We used to have the Russian River Ramparts, which was our old independent study that was in person out at the Guerneville Community Center. I think that we could float some options and see if other names emerge. Shannon, please.
I like Russian River Academy. For what it's worth, y'all. And actually, the mill is really
Can
cool
we do
too.
a quick straw poll? Just straw poll doesn't mean anything. How many people would be okay with Russian River Academy as a name? Small sample, people who show up at meetings, weird people, but. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I am just speaking as I go. My hope is that we find a name that is meaningful and hopefully healing as well. I definitely, we need to go above and beyond to get that input from the river community. I have a feeling, I entered into the community El Molinos last year. I chose to come into this district. Many of you guys know this. I chose to come into this district and take a part-time job just to work at El Molino. That's how much I wanted to be here. But with that said, my priority and my focus are my rhinos. And if El Molino was to be something that was thought about, I just would like you to also consider the impact that that name might have on the rhinos that are on that campus, because that definitely would affect the ability to feel like we're prioritized. With that said, I absolutely also love the name The Mill, and I think that that is totally honoring El Molino, and finding a way to honor and also move forward, I think, is where I'm standing.
Can I make a comment as somebody who's
Please.
done this in a prior district multiple times? Specifically, Santa Rosa City Schools, when opening CCLA, went through the same process of trying to determine what name, and being sensitive to the community and gathering input. Picking a name for a school is like picking the paint color for a school. Everybody's got input. What we did with the CCLA naming is we had a small committee. I know we don't have a ton of time. Help pick 5 different names, and those 5 different names were rooted deep in the community, that had meaning and were important. And that was what the board ultimately had an opportunity to vote on. I know how you gather that information, but it is the fun part. But it was a really, really well done process, and a lot of people felt heard. Not everybody was happy, but we're not going to make everybody happy. So the goal is to try to find something that helps bring a community together.
Well,
So that's just my thought.
I like that. And we have a committee that's well represented meeting tomorrow night. And we have an hour and a half scheduled, and our engagement activity is calculated out at just about an hour. And we wanted to leave that extra 30 minutes for other conversations and questions and things that might come up. So perhaps we have that discussion and bring some names that come out of what I believe is going to be our widest draw of educational partners and folks in the community, and Russian River representatives. And we obviously have people from our district that are part of this composition. And Jenny has put this on our website on the scrolling calendar with the message that I created for those river community school districts that are joining us. Perhaps we can hone in on 5 options and bring them back to the board without necessarily surveying in January.
Could that committee come up with 5 names that feel like some of the ones maybe mentioned here? And then can we put a survey out
with those 5 names?
Those 5 names, and let people rank choice 5 names? Then we have data.
Sure.
We can do that.
We could
Absolutely.
get 1,000 people to respond. That would be really good data.
I think that'd be powerful.
Can I make another recommendation? I know, Shannon, on your email message, you talk about the Miwok and Pomo area, and that campus sits on Miwok and Pomo territory. Maybe that's something else, Chris, that somebody wants to think about, that there's a Miwok or Pomo name that somebody wants to throw out there. I don't know. I'm just saying that, because that's something that's caught my attention on Shannon's email.
So would the board like to ask the superintendent to, at his meeting tomorrow night, to ask them to come up with 5 sensitively thought out names, and then can somebody in admin put a survey out?
Yes.
Like, yes? Okay, can we, so everyone, yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
I got my direction.
All right.
I want to just appreciate everybody's thoughtful comments and the dialogue. And I think this was a very important conversation. And I feel really good about my direction moving forward. So
awesome. Okay. We're moving on, believe it or not. Consideration of approval of a new course, Sustainable Construction Practices and Design. And I believe we have some public comment. You guys have waited
You have
since.
make a motion in a second, and then let's
We have
present.
a motion to approve the new course in sustainable construction.
I move that we approve the new course in sustainable construction practices and design.
I second it.
Take it away. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
Oh. Play.
Between the two of you.
You're a part of the
It's already been moved to
presentation.
second. We're good. All right. So as mentioned earlier, we have been awarded $1 million Strong Workforce Program grant geared towards building an articulated green construction pathway. The 3-course green construction pathway at Annalee High School will be designed as a pipeline to the SRJC construction training programs and prepare students for post-secondary opportunities. The course sequence begins with foundational skills in carpentry, progresses to work-based learning opportunities and experiences, and accumulates industry certifications. Capstone students, for example, will earn the OSHA 10 construction certification, which is a prerequisite for the SRJC program and a standard upon industry upon employment. This pathway will guide students from K-12 to post-secondary to employment, preparing them for livable wage jobs and high-demand construction occupations. The occupational demand has steadily increased as a result of our previous fires, along with the need for low-income housing units. Overall, construction occupations throughout the Bay region are projected to have over 22,000 annual openings from 2018 to 2028, with an average annual earnings of over $67,300, exceeding the livable wage threshold presented by the Center of Excellence. Yet, 67% of employers surveyed for the 2022 COE Construction Sector Workforce Study report an insufficient pool of qualified candidates. This echoes the COE's demand and supply gap analysis, which revealed that annual post-secondary awards fell nearly 6,400 short of labor market demands in these trades. As the construction industry adapts to the new building codes and environmental regulations, there is a need for an upcoming workforce that have base knowledge in sustainable or green construction. Articulating our green construction pathway with the SRJC construction certification will maintain the relevancy of curriculum and maintain industry CT standards. So tonight we are excited to propose the adoption of the first course in this new pathway, the Sustainable Construction Practices and Design. This course will be the first phase of transitioning the cabinetry and millwork CT pathway to a residential and commercial construction pathway with a sustainable focus. The current Wood 1 course will remain as is. This new course will replace Wood 2 as the concentrator course, and then in the following year we will implement or request the capstone course. Through the articulation with SRJC, students will complete 2 of SRJC's courses while in the Annalee pathway.
I don't know what I'm going to add, but so the idea, I guess, currently with this new program is to articulate it with the JC. Also, just building in the skills. Not necessarily even with a focus on I'm going to go into the trades, but I'm going to own a house at some point. I need to know some skills. So currently, I'm participating in that JC program. I'm one of the first 3 classes. I'm going to continue on through, and it's basic carpentry skills. The one I just finished is the one that I'm going to be teaching. They will get the OSHA 10 certification as well. There will be a ladder safety certification, basic electrical certification. It's all through kind of OSHA trainings. So they'll get a lot of certifications. I mentioned to Chuck I say way back about forklift certification or bucket truck certification, which we don't have, but maybe looking into the future, going through the CTE program through SCO, the Willits High School construction teacher, he does all that as well. So it's like, that was kind of my reach out to him. But you know, I want to provide as many opportunities to the kids as possible. Heck, the number of years I spent in college, I don't know. I've probably spent 10 to 15 years in college between, getting my bachelor's in science, going back, getting my credential, going back, continuing education. And I'm not knocking college. College is important, but trades are really important too. I'm not going to say there's a lot, but there's a few students who come through my classroom that are not academic students at all. I've been reached out to by office staff and said, hey, can they come in? And I look at their grades. I'm just like, oh, okay. And then they excel. My goal is to have kids that have that drive, that desire to learn the trades, that are most likely going to go into the trades, and give them kind of a step up on other people. The final 2 classes with the JC that as far as I know, I'm not going to be teaching, and there won't be an articulation class, but the final 2 classes are framing classes. So basic carpentry tools and safety is what I'm doing now. I will be going back and doing floor, walls, roofs, ceilings, stairs. And then if the JC decides they want to add more, I'll probably go back into those as well and try to get a little bit more experience from that standpoint. I'm not coming from the industry, but I see the importance of the industry. I participate, last year I participated with North Bay Construction Corps, and it was, I think, 85 high school seniors from Sonoma County, and it was a great experience. I'm actually going to participate with them again this year. Yeah, I'm going to be one of the coordinators with the program. So there'll be 3 of us working with high school seniors to push them into that trade focused area. So the class is exciting. There's a lot to get done. And thanks to Heidi, we got a grant. And thanks to Chuck for being supportive of it as well. But there's a lot to come down the pipeline. There's a lot of things that I'm going to learn. And, I'll probably make, hopefully, hopefully small mistakes. But, it's a learning process for me too. But it's an exciting time for me to be able to start this program with your guys' approval. So thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
I just want to say thank you for being here.
Good job, you guys.
Any questions from the board?
Question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Approved.
Good job. Thank you guys very much. Thanks for what you teach. Thanks, Heidi, for your grant work.
Okay, first reading of proposed new supplemental texts in English.
Yeah, we have some new supplemental textbooks. My full support. I know that the English department, McKenna Hurd and Blake Leibowitz, had kind of put these proposals in front of us. And once again, they were able to acquire some support and funding through Donors Choose, clear conversations with the understanding that the district does have resources to fund these supplemental materials, but the choice was to go that route this time around. So I recommend that we approve those supplemental resources.
So this is a first reading.
Oh, that's right. My apologies. Yeah. It's just first reading. Yeah. We'll come back next month.
Okay.
They got to sit for 14 days. So yeah, anyway.
Okay. Facilities maintenance and technology. Who could that be?
Me.
Okay.
The first item is just a regular routine item for our bond project updates. And I usually just, this is for the good of our new board members here. I usually just walk through each of the projects that the board has approved, just to give you a status of where we're at. Project AA28, which is Annalee Small Gym, which includes the C building, the J building, and the Z building, roofing and HVAC. In one of the subsequent items, we'll be asking you to award the guaranteed maximum price of that project tonight. Our goal is to start the procurement process for the equipment, for the HVAC equipment. It's at about, I think I'm being told, 4 or 5 month lead time right now. So it would arrive right in time for us to have a summer construction project. That project is slated for this summer. Project AA31, which is Annalee Main Gym Roofing and HVAC, again, is being coupled with that GMP later on in the board item tonight. We are doing some continued value engineering on that project and potentially looking at not replacing the built-up roof because we have had some discussions internally about the longevity of that building. And so we don't want to necessarily throw good money for bad. So we are looking at potentially coating that, but we are asking you to award it as designed tonight, just so that we can start the procurement process for the HVAC equipment that we are in desperate need of replacing. The next project is AA36, Annalee High School new CTE classroom building, also on the agenda, subsequent item tonight for phase 2 guaranteed maximum price being awarded for the demolition of 2 classrooms on the Annalee High School campus. So we're asking you later on to approve that so that we can prepare to take over the ownership of that classroom in March to deal with the abatement, and then the demo would happen over spring break. Project AA38, portables for temporary housing over on the Student Services Center. That project is underway. We just finished paving today and prepping for the new portables. The new portables will land over a 4-day period over the winter break. So they'll be hopefully put back together because there's a delivery crew, then there's a set crew that comes out to do all of that work. And then the general contractor will come back and hook them all up. Our goal is to have 2 of those classrooms available to be occupied for the Maker classroom that is going to be demolished in March, as well as the Annex 3, which houses an English teacher. The remaining 4 classrooms would be able to be occupied over summer for the fall of 26 school year. That's in large part due to the fact that we don't have enough power to power all of the buildings. PG&E is going to do a transformer upgrade on their side. Project AA40, which is the Forestville Building F HVAC and roofing project. There's no new updates. That's currently in DSA. We're just sitting in the bin waiting for approval. AA41 Forestville Gym Building HVAC, that's the boiler project. You've already awarded that project. The lead time for that was tremendous. So we're expecting the boiler equipment to come in early February so that we can complete that project. Project AA43 is the stadium improvement project. We have no new updates there. You prioritized that project, but we're looking to bring that to you sometime in the spring with the remaining design elements to be awarded so that we can continue designing that project as well as the subsequent project, which is AA45, the Annalee East Wing modernization with classrooms L1 and L2. Those are kind of in the holding pattern for right now while we get all the other, we've got 5 construction projects actively going right now. We're a little busy. Project AA49 is the Laguna High School campus improvement project. That project started Monday. They've already removed almost all of the lockers. They're starting to remove the K-walls. They've removed the interior carpet of the 6 classrooms that they're recarpeting. They've got interior painting coming shortly. They are just rocking and rolling with as much that they can do in the weather. The exterior painting probably won't happen until after winter. Happy to answer any questions. I've been really updating the project budget on a regular basis, but we're still waiting for 4 of our projects from this last summer to get us final closeout numbers. So I hope to have that in early January, which will give us a better idea of where we're at with our final dollars.
Thank you. Questions? Okay, so moving on to consideration of approval of an amendment number 2 to the lease back for the main gym and small gym. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second? Second, Rio, thank you.
This item is as presented. This is an amendment to the right contracting lease back that we already have in place. You've already awarded phase 1 and phase 2. This is phase 3, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Consideration approval of amendment number 1, also for lease back site development project phase 2. Do we have a motion? I move that we approve the amendment number 1. Second? Okay.
And I just want to clarify, this is for the Annalee High School CTE classroom building. This is a different contractor. This is with GCCI. You awarded in November the phase 1, which is the parking lot expansion, which we're pretty close to being completed. We're adding more parking spaces down there, as we're going to likely take some upper parking away because you're losing parking for staff that is in between the buildings. Phase 2 is the awarding of the abatement of buildings that we plan to remove, as well as the removal of those buildings. You'll have one more phase that you'll award, which is the entire project. Everything that we're doing right now is outside the purview of DSA. We have to wait for DSA to stamp us out before we can start any of the DSA approved work. And for our new folks, DSA is the Division of State Architect, and they are our approving body. We do not get permitted locally. We get permitted at the state. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. And then number 4 is approval for a joint lease agreement with Sonoma County Special Education for a lease of certain Forestville campus facilities. Do we have a motion on that one? Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeannie.
This is pretty much as presented. As you know, and we had a lengthy discussion tonight, the goal of the Forestville campus right now is to really create community. And we've been partnering with a lot of different entities, the Sonoma County Library, Sonoma County Regional Parks, and SELPA recently approached us as their lease was ending in Rohnert Park, and they were looking for a new long-term home. So we found some classrooms on campus, and we think it'll be a great fit for them. I'm sure Chris has more about the educational pieces. There's no classes being held here. These are offices for adults, and likely having some meetings. And they'll be occupying 3 classrooms on campus. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
And I'll just add that non-student based, professional office space and storage. These are folks who deploy out all over the county to provide speech and language services. You all know that our district is prioritized and committed to serving students in special education, as demonstrated our commitment in holding the West County Consortium and all the things that we do to support our students. This is something that I was really excited about when Elizabeth Ingleton, the director of the SELPA, reached out, cast a wide net to pretty much every superintendent around the county, and nobody had, an answer or an offer for her. So I want to thank Jenny. I initiated the conversation. She took it and ran with it. They're super excited, and I think it's a really, really good partnership to add to the community school model. So I'm just excited that we could come in and help them out and give them, a potential for long-term home.
Any other questions, comments?
I just
Jeannie?
want to say, thank you, Jenny, for helping figure this out. And thank you, Chris, for reaching out and saying yes. And that, you'd bring it, to the board to look at. And the other thing I look at is and say, is it brings us some more income for out there. So, I think it's kind of a win-win for us.
Any other comments, questions? All those in favor? Aye. Passed. Now we can return to closed session if we need to, but we don't need to. Check. Future meeting dates. Our next meeting then is January 22nd?
Sir.
Okay, we are adjourned.